All right, Madam Chair, we are live and it is 6:30 for you.
Great. The recording's going?
It is.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, March 16th, Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting for the evening. Clerk Moss, if you could take roll call, please.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. The Board of Washington County Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other service districts, is now meeting in regular session this March 2nd, 2021. Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Fye.
Here.
Vice Chair Treese.
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here.
And I will announce Commissioner Willie is excused for tonight.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to turn the meeting over to the two heads of administrative managerial heads of our two agencies, Washington County as well as Clean Water Services, to give us a report on the Cornelius incident and the response from the two agencies.
Diane, maybe I'll lead this off. We did not have this coordinated ahead of time, Chair. So good evening, Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners. The incident occurred in Cornelius at Summit Foods, which is a parent company to Summit Fuels, which makes ethanol racing fuel. Cornelius and other West Side fire agencies responded. Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue Hazmat team was on site as well. Firefighting foam was transported over from PDX for when they were able to start the firefighting operations. Traffic is closed in that area, and those wanting to travel through Cornelius at our baseline will need to take detours to the north and south. I will note the fire is still burning. At this point, no active firefighting is occurring because of the risk to firefighters from getting too close. Our land use and transportation, as well as Sheriff's Office, responded to support traffic control and evacuation. I believe that the Sheriff's Office is also using drone technology to survey the area. At this time, I'm not aware of any other county departments assisting with this response. Our emergency management team is active in gathering information, and I really appreciate their quick response to helping me getting this briefing to you. Environmental health was notified, and other public health staff were notified due to potential for air quality concerns, but I'm not aware of any action that's been taken at this point. So that concludes my update on the incident.
I'd just like to add that Clean Water Services is coordinating with Cornelius Public Works to provide mutual aid. We set up our incident command so that our field operations staff and environmental services staff can respond as they need. And I feel very fortunate that we have a state hazmat team right here in our region with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. These ethanol fires are dangerous, and we have a great team on site. So thank you.
And if I could just add one bullet point that I did overlook, the evacuation site of a half a mile is still in effect, and evacuees were given the option to go to Forest Grove High School. Red Cross was called to support there as well. As of 40 minutes ago, there were 11 people who were sheltered at Forest Grove High School.
Diane, I think, I didn't do a very good job of introducing the two of you. So we first heard from Ms. Tanya Angie, the County Administrator for Washington County. And then we also heard from Diane Taniguchi Dennis, the CEO of Clean Water Services. Diane, I'm hoping that you can give the board a brief summary of what you shared with me about the invisible nature of burning ethanol.
Yeah, ethanol is a very interesting chemical when it burns, and it's pretty clear at this site it extended beyond just the tanks. Ethanol fires are unique because they burn very hot, and it also burns very invisibly. And the team here in our region is very well suited to fight these types of fires. Right now it's involving buildings and adjacent buildings, so the fire is quite lots of smoke, so and ash, and they are asking people to avoid the area. So thank you, Chair.
So I received communication from the TVFNR PIO just after 3:00 p.m. and spoke with him right after our afternoon work session and executive session completed, and immediately texted Ms. Angie and Ms. Taniguchi Dennis to make sure that the PIO wasn't able to assure me that our Clean Water Services team was deployed, though he expressed he wouldn't be surprised, but I wanted to make sure, given particularly if they choose to use water, that all protections are in place. So the team is fully integrated and everything we could hope for is well in hand. So I wanted to make sure that all board members had the benefit of a good report. Any questions for our team? Go ahead, Commissioner Treese.
Do either of you know if there are any injuries?
At this time, the news was not reporting any injuries, but the ambulance and everybody is there to support. That should medical be necessary.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, we'll move on then with the agenda. The first item on the agenda is oral communication. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up to address us today in this portion of the agenda?
We do not for this portion, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, but before I go to that, I'll make sure everyone's updated on a few agenda changes for tonight's meeting. Under proclamations, we'll be adding a third item, and I'll get to that later. Item 4A under board and commissions, item A had been revised from the first published packet. Item 4C, as in Charlie, has been removed from tonight's agenda and is postponed until our August 20th board business meeting. That's it for the main body of the agenda. Now onward to the Commissioner Rogers.
April, you mean? You said August.
I did. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. I do that with such frequency. I take the first letter and I switch it. I don't know what goes on in my brain with that because it says April on the paper. So thank you very much, Commissioner Rogers, for catching that. Okay, onward to the consent agenda. There are 13 items on today's consent agenda, 2 sets of minutes, 3 items under Clean Water Services, and I just want to note that item C was revised from the first packet. There are 4 items under Land Use and Transportation. The second item, item E, has a link in it for the bid award memo. There are 2 items under County Administrative Office, 1 item under the Office of Community Development, and 1 item under Support Services. What are the wishes of the board regarding the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Is there a second? Commissioner Tree seconds. Thank you for the motion, Commissioner Rogers. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to proclamations. The first is to proclaim April 2021 Fair Housing Month in Washington County. Do we have Ginny Proctor to read the proclamation?
I believe due to the timing of the meeting and need for brevity, Clerk Moss was going to be reading the proclamation
Yes.
this evening.
Thank you, Administrator Angie. Proclamation, Board of County Commissioners for Washington County, Fair Housing Month, April 2021. Whereas the year 2021 marks the 53rd anniversary of the passage of the Federal Fair Housing Act, Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, as amended. And whereas this law guarantees that housing throughout the United States should be made available to all community members without regard to race, color, religion, gender, familial status, disability, or national origin. And whereas the Oregon Fair Housing Law guarantees that housing throughout the state of Oregon should be made available to all community members without regard to marital status, sources of income, sexual orientation, including gender identity, and survivors of domestic violence. And whereas equality of opportunity is fundamental policy of this nation, state, and county. And whereas barriers which diminish the rights and limit the options of any community members will be ultimately diminish the rights of all community members. And whereas only with the cooperation, commitment, and support from all of the residents of Washington County can barriers to the enjoyment of this and other aspects of equality of opportunity for all be removed. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Washington County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April 2021 to be Fair Housing Month and encourages all community members wholeheartedly recognize these rights and responsibilities throughout the year. In witness, therefore, I have unto set my hand and caused the seal of Washington County of Oregon to be affixed this 16th day of March 2021, signed by Chair Harrington and Recording Secretary.
Too many buttons. Is there a motion to adopt this proclamation?
So moved.
And thank you, Commissioner Rogers, and a second from Vice Chair Treese. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, colleagues. Next, proclamation to proclaim April 5th through April 9th, 2021 as National Community Development Week in Washington County.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Proclamation, Board of Commissioners for Washington County, National Community Development Week, April 5th through the 9th, 2021. Whereas the week of April 5th through April 9th, 2021 has been designated as National Community Development Week by the National Community Development Association to celebrate the Community Development Block Grant CDBG program and the Home Investment Partnerships program. And whereas the CDBG program provides the annual funding and flexibility to local communities to provide decent, safe, and sanitary housing, a suitable living environment, and economic opportunities to people with low and moderate incomes. And whereas the Home Investment Partnerships program provides funding to local communities to create decent, safe, affordable housing opportunities for low-income persons. Nationally, over 1 million units of affordable housing have been completed using the home funds. Whereas over the past 5 years, our community has received a total of 11,616,351 in CDBG funds and over 7,279,529 in home funds. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Washington County Board of Commissioners that it hereby calls on Congress to recognize in its fiscal year 2022 budget deliberations the cost effectiveness of the CDBG and home formula funding programs in creating sustainable communities. Be it further resolved that the Washington County Board of Commissioners urges Congress to recognize the outstanding work being done locally and nationally by its CDBG and home programs by supporting the increased funding for both programs in fiscal year 2022. In witness there, I hereto set my hand and cause the seal of Washington County to be affixed the 16th day of March 2021, signed by Chair Harrington and Recording Secretary.
Do we have a motion to adopt this proclamation? So moved by Vice Chair Treese. A second. Do we have a second? From Commissioner Fye. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor, thank you. Any of those opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you very much, colleagues. Next, I just want to kick off Commissioner recognition for an upcoming event. On Wednesday, March 31st, we will honor International Transgender Day of Visibility. Because of our meeting schedule this month, we're taking a moment today, March 16th, to provide members of our commission with an opportunity to share a few comments. And I'll start first. International Transgender Day of Visibility is intended to be one of celebration of the lives and successes of our transgender community. As we head into the second year of implementing our equity resolution, I think it's important that we look to our community members and ask them how to acknowledge and support them in meaningful ways. For me, this happened when I received a letter from an 11-year-old trans girl who had asked me to bring forward some sort of acknowledgement for Trans Day of Visibility. With her permission and that of her parents, I'm happy today to thank Darwin for being a young activist who understands that being seen is a critical piece of being part of our community. She made an impassioned argument that the best way to combat hate and fear is with familiarity and education, and I couldn't agree more. I want to thank Darwin for bringing forward her proposal, and I look forward to meeting her later this month. It is my aim to continue to empower and recognize all forms of diversity within our community and to provide a voice and a platform for those who have historically not been represented. And it seems a good time to remind ourselves that anytime we lift up voices of a segment of our society, we are not diminishing the voices of any other community members. Rather, we're adding to the diversity and exciting conversation that best reflects all of our community. To our trans community members here in Washington County, I see you, I honor you, and I look forward to continue to work to support you. And now I turn the mic over to my colleagues who wish to join me in this forward recognition tonight. Vice Chair Treese.
Thank you very much, Chair. I appreciate this opportunity to make a statement in honor of International Transgender Day of Visibility that's coming up on March 31st, an annual day to celebrate the transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming members of our community and to further shine a light on transgender rights. My hope with these statements today is to convey to our community members in Washington County that identify as transgender, non-binary, or gender non-conforming, that I stand with you and that I support you. And that as a Washington County Commissioner, I am committed to advocating and advancing your rights here at the county. I will do everything I can to make sure you feel welcome and included and visible all days of the year and deeply supported. While March 31st is a celebration, it's also an opportunity for us to recognize and raise awareness of the astonishing and frankly very upsetting levels of discrimination and violence that members of the transgender, the non-binary, and the gender conforming community endure regularly. I'm truly humbled and in awe of the remarkable resiliency and strength of this community. They thrive in the face of this adversity, but it's not enough to be aware, recognizing that this information needs to be a call to action as well, to move forward the much needed work to end the violence and to stop the discrimination. So for March 31st, we celebrate our transgender, non-binary, and gender-related members for their courageousness to live openly and fully as their authentic selves. And we celebrate while we celebrate, I hope we all remember that we are in this together, as Chair Harrington said, that we should strive to lift up one another, not tear each other down, and that rights denied to one group mean rights denied to all of us. It is in our best interest to be invested in each other's success. With that, I want to wish everyone a very happy and frankly meaningful International Transgender Day of Visibility this coming March 31st. I hope with each celebration of this day, we get closer to a world where the protection and respect of each transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individual is ensured. I thank the chair for the time to allow me to express my thoughts. Much appreciation.
So I know through our board work session conversation today that Commissioner Rogers, you're in full support and alignment as well. So too with you, Commissioner Fye. But before I go any further, if there are any additional remarks you'd like to make, I don't want to be remiss in giving you that opportunity. Okay, great. Thank you, colleagues. I appreciate this. Next, we'll move on to the boards and commissions part of our agenda. The first item is to appoint members to the county budget committees. We have a couple of different budget committees.
Chair, can I ask a question? I thought we were going to vote to approve the position.
There's actually no proclamation.
I knew that, but okay. All right. I apologize.
Yes,
I thought we were just going to support the positions, but that's okay.
We'll all show a thumbs up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you. For the county budget committees, is there any staff report or would you prefer? Okay, so I'll just read off what we have then. Tonight, we have an action before us to appoint Cesar Maldonado to the Washington County and Service District Lighting No. 1 Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2023. In addition, to appoint Daniel Reed and Fuhu Zhu to the North Bethany Community Service District, I didn't get that right, Community Service District R Budget Committee for a term ending June 30th, 2023. Is there a motion to appoint these members to the county budget committees as I've read off? A motion from Commissioner Tree, second, Vice Chair Tree, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, colleagues. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. And let me double check and make sure. That was the North Bethany County Service District for Roads. That's where I stumbled. Thank you, colleagues. Okay, the next item is to appoint members to the West Slope Library Advisory Board. We have an action before us to appoint Kristen Ingram, Amelia Nason, and Lois Hayes to the West Slope Library Advisory Board, effective immediately for a term ending June 30th, 2024. And I do want to note that we are fortunate to welcome the addition of our first youth member on this committee with Amelia Nason joining this slate. Is there a motion to adopt this slate of appointees? A motion from Commissioner Fye, a second. Second from Vice Chair Treese. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, colleagues. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you. Phew. And I mentioned earlier that item 4C has been postponed to April 20th. Next, we'll move on to public hearings for the evening. The first one is for clean water services. We need to hold a public hearing. Let's see. This is a resolution, so we don't need to read by title only, but I would like a motion to open the public hearing.
Madam Chair,
Staff
first
report
staff
first.
report, and then you
Yes.
will not need a motion to open the public hearing. You can just
That's right. It's usually just to read by title only. So I'd like to welcome Andy Braun from Clean Water Services. And I should turn it over to Ms. Taniguchi Dennis first, as my screen moves around on me, to see if there was any intro that you wanted to make.
Oh, thank you, Chair Harrington and Board of Clean Water Services. Andy Braun is delighted to give the staff report today and also to update you that we do have some residents that would like to testify, I believe, and they did submit written testimony. So thank you.
Great. Well, we'll turn it over to you, Andy.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Chair Harrington and members of the board. Tonight's first public hearing is to provide an opportunity for interested parties to comment on the Northwest Cornell Road at 107th Avenue Sanitary Sewer Reimbursement District project. This project was proposed by staff and adopted in the fiscal year 2021 Clean Water Services Capital Improvement Budget. The project is being introduced now to coordinate with the Washington County Land Use and Transportation Cornell Road Widening Project between 102nd Avenue and 113th Avenue, in order to minimize cost and disruption to the community. This unincorporated area is within the Cedar Mill Community Plan. Lots on the north side of Cornell Road are zoned R5, and lots on the south side of Cornell are zoned R6. Generally, the lots are not developed to the potential density allowed by the zoning. The area is in Beaverton's urban planning area. Staff has coordinated consideration for future connection with the city of Beaverton. Next slide, please. This is a location map of the project. And if you want to go on to the next slide. 22 properties front Cornell Road between 107th and 113th Avenues. 3 properties are public open space, which will not be developed. 5 properties currently have access to public sewers. One of these lots, which has access to an existing sewer, desires to partition and construct a new house, which would not be able to connect to the existing sewer, but could connect to the new line. That lot, plus 14 other residential lots without existing service, constitute the reimbursement district. The purpose of the reimbursement district is twofold. First, the properties benefiting from the new service pay for their service without burdening the general ratepayers who have paid for their service by other means. Second, Reimbursement District Ordinance 43 offers the benefiting property owners both a financial incentive to convert from on-site sewage disposal systems to public sewer, and provides a financing mechanism to help ease the cost burden. Next slide, please. This $1 million project consists of approximately 1,750 feet of 8-inch diameter sewer extension constructed in 2 phases. Phase 1 extends the sewer from an existing manhole approximately 350 feet southward to the Cornell Road right-of-way. It will be constructed by district construction crews at a cost of approximately $302,800. It is considered off-site and is proposed to be district cost share of the project. Phase 2 constructs approximately 1,410 feet of sewer main, and laterals in the Cornell Road right-of-way. The work will be bid with the county roadway project and constructed by the low bidder. The costs associated with Phase 2 are slated for reimbursement by the owners of the 15 benefiting properties. The estimated reimbursable cost is $738,785. Next slide, please. The proposed cost distribution methodology is a modified front footage basis. This method strikes a balance between larger lots having more potential for future development while acknowledging that some of the lots may remain as single-family home sites. 7 lots have frontage less than 100 feet. 6 of these have an average of 82 feet, and a 7th is a flag lot with only 10 feet of frontage. Each of these lots would be responsible for the cost of their full frontage upon connection. For equity purposes, the lot having only 10 feet of frontage will be responsible for the equivalent of 50 feet. The 7 lots having their shorter frontages differ, but have an average charge of $33,516 and a connection incentive of $5,547 for a net cost of $28,059 should they connect within 1 year. 8 lots have more than 100 feet of frontage, averaging 146 feet. Due to the large size and frontage of these lots, the estimated reimbursement charges are higher than normal for typical single-family lots. These 8 larger lots will be responsible for 100 feet of frontage upon connection of their existing home. The balance of the reimbursement charge will be deferred to a time that the lot is further developed with at least 1 additional connection. The reimbursement charge for their initial connection is estimated to be $43,128. If they connect within the first year, they would be eligible for the early connection incentive of $7,022 for a net cost of $36,106. With the district's 30% off-site cost share and allowance for partial deferral, in addition to the early connection incentives, the owner's share of costs has been moderated substantially. While no cost distribution is perfect, we believe this proposal achieves a reasonable balance of complexity, fairness, and cost allocation among owners and general ratepayers. Next slide, please. As a reminder, reimbursement districts do not include a required time in which to connect. Owners have the following options: connect within 1 year, receive the early connection incentive, and pay cash or finance through the district at an interest rate of 2.92%. Owners with more than 100 feet of frontage may pay their entire reimbursement charge or defer a portion until a second connection is made. Second, they could defer connection and pay nothing until a connection is made. The reimbursement charge amount will accrue interest at 0.92% annual interest rate. The 2 vacant lots may pay their reimbursement charge or enter into a financing agreement within the first year to be eligible for the early connection incentive. A neighborhood meeting was held in 2018 notifying owners about the project. Due to COVID-19 concerns, no second in-person neighborhood meeting was held. However, owners received 3 mailings and a project website was created with relevant information about the reimbursement districts, project costs, and the project itself. District staff has interacted by phone, teleconference, in-person visits, or email with 7 owners and answered questions about the distribution of cost methodology, total cost necessary to connect, construction and connection timing, and lateral locations. Consideration of an alternative alignment was raised today. The new alignment would require new survey, redesign of the sewer, permitting, easement acquisition, recalculation of costs, and cost distribution impacting all property owners, and would delay the project beyond the county road schedule planned for a July bid. Locating the sewer in the right-of-way allows for cost-effective operation and maintenance, as well as logical extension of service. At this stage of the project, our cost estimates tend to be conservative. Upon completion of the sewer construction and testing, and completion of final costs, and a compilation of final costs, staff will return to the board with another public hearing to adjust the reimbursement charges to reflect actual costs. Any connections made prior to the adoption of the final reimbursement charges will pay the estimated costs. Next slide, please. At the conclusion of tonight's public hearing, the board may form the reimbursement district, direct staff to make changes to the project or reimbursement methodology and continue the public hearing, or could cancel the project. This concludes the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Braun before we have a public hearing? No, I don't see any. Andy, I would like to compliment you on a great staff report. I know this board has heard multiple presentations of what the reimbursement districts are about, but these are significant offerings for neighbors, neighborhood groups that operate their homes on septic sewer. And so that's why it's really important that we have these thorough and thoughtful presentations from you in public meetings, and all the great work that the staff of Clean Water Services has put forward in order to engage with the affected residents in each of these areas. So seeing no questions, I'd like to open a public hearing. Commissioner Moss, could you please call on our community members who wish to engage, testify tonight?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first person I do not see on the line, so we will move to our second person, Mr. David Miller. David, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
we can.
we can.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Miller, and I live at 11165 Northwest Cornell Road. There's a small creek near the north edge of my property, which drains the small drainage between Cornell and Reeves. There's an existing sewer manhole at my property line close to the creek. This is the starting point of the proposed sewer extension. I've always assumed that any sewer extension would follow the creek to best serve the drainage, but instead, the proposed sewer extension runs straight towards Cornell, then follows Cornell. Cornell is at the uphill edge of my property, such that my home and most of my property can't be served from Cornell. My property is large and will eventually be developed. When that happens, the developer will be required to install additional sewer mains to serve properties uphill from me, following the creek. I thus feel like I'm about to be assessed for the wrong sewer line. Moving on to cost, this project is expensive. Because homes in the project area are on larger lots, there are relatively few owners to share the cost. One solution to mitigate the cost per owner is to bring in all the potentially benefited properties. Much of the area around this project is already served by sewer. This project fills in a blank spot in the sewer map, but it could do more. In particular, the project will still leave a blank spot along Northwest 110th, where there are 8 lots that could easily be served if the project scope were expanded. These lots have no easy access to sewer now, but the project will bring an 8-inch main partway down their street, setting the stage for a future LID. Why not complete this job now, give all these lots access to sewer, and have the owners of these lots share in the cost of bringing the sewer to their street? Timing seems right, given that project engineering is already engaged and that construction will be happening in the area. Finally, I feel foolish not to have realized it much sooner, but there is an alternate alignment which would serve all but one of the lots in the current project, a similar length of pipe, bringing 2 additional lots into the project. In addition, this alternate alignment would much better serve my property and the Cornell Reeves drainage, laying the groundwork for future sewer extensions uphill from me. I've outlined this proposal in a presentation for review. I realize it is likely much too late to propose an alternate alignment, but I believe it never hurts to ask. And I do hope to give serious consideration to bringing in Northwest 110th to allow those lots to be assessed for fair share of bringing the sewer to their street. Finally, if anything can be done to further reduce the cost of connecting to a single-family home on a large lot, I would appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and please consider these points further in the presentation I submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I would suggest that we complete our public hearing before we address any questions. Mr. Moss, do we have the other person of 2 on the line?
We do not, Madam Chair, and there was one other person, Enos. I just want to allow them the opportunity. They did sign up. Enos, can you hear us?
Yes.
Did you want to provide comment on this item?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Please go ahead for up to 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the opportunity for the testimony. I think this project will bring a lot of benefit to the Cornell Road up to 107th. The area is currently undeveloped with many lots looking to be developed. However, I'm a little bit concerned about the cost. If the current cost is very conservative, I wonder what it would look like when the bidding occurs. And that scares me a little bit. So that's my only concern for this project, what it would look like for smaller properties and so on. How can we afford it? Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for the time.
Thank you for that, Enos. And that concludes the public comment on this item. Madam Chair, back to you.
Thank you. If I could ask a point of clarification for Mr. Braun. When you say that Clean Water Services has made a conservative estimate, I believe what you're trying to get at is you and the team have used best experience to estimate the cost, but generally you're not taking it down so small that people should expect astronomical cost increases, that you're trying to, in essence, give them a high estimate, a reasonable but high estimate, so that when the actual bids come in, it will be somewhat lower than what you're conservatively estimating. Am I correct in that understanding?
That is correct. We think it's slightly high. I think just like you described, it's within reasonability and not overly high, but I sure hate going back to the owners after the project and saying, guess what? It's more than what we told you before. So our objective is to come in a little bit lower than that and have a pleasant surprise in the end.
Wonderful. Is there any other explanation on that point from any other member of your team? No? Okay. I'm trying to be extra careful here, folks, because this is a big project and a lot of money. Is there anything about what we heard from Mr. Miller that you would like to clarify for us with regard to the project proposal that you've made tonight?
I will just say that regarding the potential of an extension on 110th Avenue, we have been in contact with some of those neighbors. They have expressed, some of the neighbors have expressed an interest in perhaps forming a local improvement district in the future. One of the distinctions between a local improvement district and the reimbursement district is we generally use the reimbursement district when we want to coordinate the project with a county project and the district is recommending that the project move forward. As a result of that, there is not a time period in which to connect. Because the county's project is not impacting 110th Avenue right now, we felt that it was appropriate to leave that to the owners to request an LID. And if they request an LID, then they are committed to a 10-year time frame in which to connect.
Is there any further complication with regard to the circumstances that Mr. Miller described about, a creek, the sewer line following the creek versus the CORNELL Road area? I'm no engineer, but I do want to make sure I've opened the door for you there to help clarify any of those locational circumstances with the map that you showed us in your presentation and what we have since heard described. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Mr. Miller is correct that upon development of his property, he will be required to provide service to properties that are uphill from him, and that will require a further extension across the north side of his lot. Part of his requirement would also be to provide service to the lot facing onto CORNELL that is also adjacent to his lot. So it's likely, although an alternative route could be taken, he would have to do this extension in addition to the one on the north that he will still have to take upon development of his property. So that's why this modified front footage proposal seems to be an appropriate application, acknowledging that he has a large property, somewhat smaller frontage than is commensurate with his property, but he will be burdened in the future with a development extension. So it's a fine balancing act, not perfect as I mentioned, but achieves a pretty good balance.
So to my fellow colleagues, are there any questions that you have as a result of any of the testimony we heard during the public hearing that you would like to have staff address?
Andy, oftentimes there's a reimbursement to the existing owners from the owners who subsequently hook up. You don't want to have to build the whole bus and then somebody hook up for relatively less. Is there any cost recovery that this group would receive from the 110th or any other properties that he mentioned?
So it's a good question. Generally, it is the agency or the developer which initially installs the sewer that is reimbursed, and that in this case would be the district. As far as the owners on 110th Avenue, a portion of this cost, that phase one of the project, which extends the sewer from its current location to Cornell, is being picked up by the district. And that is the predominant section which those owners will be able, on 110th, will be able to take advantage of.
So short answer is you're already picking up 30%. So plus we're doing the financing over a period of time. I missed at the very beginning and I didn't see it in the packet, so that's my fault. But how close are these properties to Beaverton, and are they going to annex?
So the first property is adjacent to a county-owned open space parcel. That county-owned open space parcel is actually within the city of Beaverton. So in a future extension, while these are clean water services sewers, any annexation which would happen would be in Beaverton's urban planning area and would be annexed into the city of Beaverton, including the sewers, and then connection to them once they're owned by the city of Beaverton would likely require annexation.
I just want to pursue that a minute. I understood, obviously that's all somebody can down the road, but we used to, in years past, said that if there was any sewer extension and it was contiguous with a city, they had to annex to that city. Are we now changing that that sort of a policy, or that we historically have done?
So interestingly, if the sewer itself is an extension, the sewer that we're connecting to is owned and maintained by the county, then that would be the first check to see if the county, or I'm sorry, if the city wanted to take on that project and make that a city sewer. This sewer actually is coming from an area that is in unincorporated area and is a clean water services sewer. We have done outreach to the city about the potential for annexation. And this time, this is not one of their higher priority areas, although they acknowledge that it is adjacent to existing city limits. And at some point in time, would be an area that they would either accept an owner's petition or perhaps pursue sometime in the future, but not immediately.
Okay. We perpetuated the issue that we never quite get out of it. It's would be nice not to, for us to be in that business of doing that. But okay, all my questions are answered.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. I appreciated learning from that. Any questions from you, Commissioner Treese or Commissioner Fye? Okay. So we've had the public hearing this evening. If the board wishes to proceed, then we need a motion to adopt the resolution and order to form the Northwest Cornell Road at Northwest 107th Avenue Reimbursement District.
I'm happy to make the motion to do that with one comment, and that is that for those who testified tonight, I appreciate it. We didn't initiate this. This always comes from other property owners who want to do this sort of thing. So, and I understand we didn't have the number of remonstrances necessary to not do this project. So I would move that we move forward.
We have a motion. Do we have a second for today's motion? Commissioner Fye seconds the motion. All those in favor?
May I make a comment, Chair? Or is
Yes.
it too late? Thank you.
No.
I just wanted to also thank those who testified. I'm familiar with this situation. I've talked with Mr. Miller, and I appreciate the feedback and the way that he has dealt with this issue with Clean Water Services and with me. So thank you very much for your presentation here.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to adopt this resolution. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, colleagues. We'll move on to our next public hearing, which is under Land Use and Transportation. With regard to transferring the jurisdiction of Northwest North Avenue to the City of North Plains. Do we have a brief staff report tonight?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This is Stephen Roberts, Director of Land Use and Transportation. And Stacy Shetler, our County Engineer, is actually going to run through a quick staff report, and then we'll have you open the public hearing.
Excellent. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. Well, Chair Harrington, Commissioners, good evening. I'm Stacy Shetler, County Engineer. The item before you, 5B, is a transfer of jurisdiction request for North Avenue to go to the City of North Plains. Your board approved a memo of understanding regarding this proposed transfer in 2019. The entirety of North Avenue, as shown on Exhibit B in your packet, are now within the City of North Plains. The city has requested the transfer through a city resolution in 2020, and an intergovernmental agreement regarding the terms of transfer have been approved by both the City Council and your board. The transfer shifts the responsibilities for construction, maintenance, and repair of this road to the city. It's requested that your board first conduct the required public hearing, and second, approve the resolution and order transferring jurisdiction. This concludes my brief staff report, and I can answer any questions or provide any more detail if it's needed at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Shetler. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Stacy tonight? I would like to just comment that there are an impressive number of steps that have to be executed in order to do even a very straightforward transfer. So, wow, I'm sure glad there were no further complications. Thank you for doing your job well and in an orderly fashion.
Thank you.
So now that we've had the staff report, we're going to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone signed up to testify on this matter tonight?
We do not, Madam Chair.
All right. Well, with that, I'll close tonight's public hearing on this and ask if we have a motion to approve the resolution and order transferring jurisdiction of Northwest North Road to the City of North Plains.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. Second from Vice Chair Treese.
I'd like
All
to make
those in favor, please.
I was going to make one quick.
No, go right ahead.
One quick comment, and that's to the mayor of the City of North Plains, as well as the council and staff. Thank you for taking on that municipal service. That's these are roads that really belong in cities when they're this particular characteristic. So thank you very much for stepping up, and we appreciate that. Sorry.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. No, it's quite all right. Sometimes I move too quickly, right to
Right.
the action. Are there any other comments? No? All righty. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Wonderful. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Thank you, colleagues. And now we have our third of fourth public hearings. We're on to support services. So the next item is to approve a resolution in order to issue inter-fund loan from the general fund to the Supportive Housing Services Revenue Fund. I'll turn it over to our Support Services Director, as well as our Chief Finance Officer, Mr. Jack Leong.
Good evening, Chair Harrington. Good evening, Commissioners. As Chair introduced, my name is Jack Leong, Director of Support Services, Chief Financial Officer. This item is related with the interfund loan from General Fund to Supportive Housing Fund. And this is according to Oregon Revised Statute 294.468, which allows for the creation of an interfund loan to support operating expenses. On May 19th, 2020, the voter approved the Portland Metro area approved a measure to raise money to support the supportive housing services. And while the estimated tax dollars will come into Washington County's estimated at $38 million, and the planning work needs to start before the tax dollar actually shows up. So this interfund loan will allow the short-term operations for this new fund and the new services at the county, and then is expected to be repaid in fiscal year 2021-22. With that, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and I recommend you open a public hearing to consider this item.
Before we start, Commissioners, do you have any questions of Mr. Leong? Nope. Seeing none, I'd like to open a public hearing. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone signed up to testify on this matter?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, I will close tonight's public hearing and ask for a motion to approve the interfund loan for the general fund to the Supportive Housing Services Revenue Fund in fiscal year 2020-2021. Do we have such a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you. Motion from Vice Chair Tree, seconded by Commissioner Fye. Any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting this resolution in order, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye. Thank you, colleagues. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. Next, we'll move on to our second support services item to approve a resolution in order to adopt Washington County supplemental budget, that's over 10%, for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mr. Leong.
Thank you again, Chair Harrington. And as introduced, my name is Jack Leong, Director of Support Services, Chief Financial Officer. This next item is related with the county's fiscal year 2020-21 supplemental budget. This is the second of 3 regularly scheduled supplemental budget that we do here at the county. We usually introduce it as a spring budget adjustment. And then the Oregon local budget law allows for the modification of the county's budget through the supplemental budget process. Supplemental budgets are used to appropriate additional funding, transfer resources, and appropriations between funds, and then establish new funds and create a new appropriation categories within the fund. This particular one is longer than our usual supplemental budget. That is a result of a lot of new lines of businesses and operations actually happening at the county. So bear with me as I go over each one of these items. There are 3 general categories that's included in this particular supplemental budget. The first one is to create a new fund, that is the fund number 245, Housing Production Opportunity Fund, within the Washington County financial structure. This funding mechanism of the Housing Production Opportunity Fund was discussed at the February 2nd, 2021 board work session. The purpose of this new fund is to segregate the revenue and expenditures for the county's investments in the housing production opportunity activities and enhance the financial transparency in this area. And that's the first category. The second category is creating a new organizational unit, which is a subcategory under a fund. This is the organizational unit 221-6530, Supportive Housing Services Administration, under the functional area of Housing, Health, and Human Services, to be consistent with the Department of Housing Services organizational unit number grouping. And this new organizational unit will replace the previously created organizational unit 221-1510, which is Supportive Housing Services Revenue Fund under County Administration. And that is the second category. So the third category, which includes all of the appropriation adjustments within the county, and then we have 11 total items under this category. The first one is related with the lottery fund, and that is increasing the revenue and expenditure appropriation by the same amount for $400,000. That is due to higher than originally projected revenues for fiscal year 20-21. This is as a result of actually positive result, better result than what we anticipated at the time of the budget for the lottery revenues coming in. And we usually do adjustments all the way till the end of the year because the actuals still continue to come in. So there may be a small adjustment in the next supplemental budget adjustment in June. The second item is the Unemployment Insurance Fund. That's Fund 512-3570. And that is to increase revenue and expenditures appropriation by $100,000. That is the result of the unemployment insurance costs have increased more than projected due to the impact from COVID. General fund transfers is the third item, and that is actually includes 3 mini items that results in the general fund transfer adjustments. The first and foremost is $13,492,882 to true up the general fund ending fund balance from fiscal year 2019-20, and that is a larger than usual number due to COVID impact. That is roughly the amount of general fund resources that got diverted to COVID, which were subsequently charged to Fund 155, which is a dedicated funding for the COVID-19 response and recovery. And then the second item under general fund transfer is increasing expenditure appropriations to provide the interfund loan from general fund to the Supportive Housing Services Revenue Fund, and that is in the amount of $790,000. There was a previous supplemental budget which authorized $350,000 already, so the combination of these two equates to the last item that you just approved, that $1,140,000. And then the third item under general fund transfers is increasing expenditure appropriations to transfer funds to the newly created Housing Production Opportunity Fund for the remainder of the fiscal year 2019-20 contribution and the fiscal year 2020-21 contribution, totaling $6,418,894. And then item number 4 is a general fund non-departmental that is increasing expenditure appropriation by $242,167 to provide appropriation for the COVID-19 Business Assistance Program funds that were not expended in fiscal year 2019-20. But this fund was expended in fiscal year 2020-21 because of the logistical time for carrying out the program. And then the next item, which is item number 5, is the general fund Affordable Housing Development Support Organization Unit. This is the 100-1675 that we're eliminating as an organizational unit. And this is to reduce the expenditure appropriation under this organizational unit for $4 million. This appropriation is replaced with a transfer expenditure appropriation in the general fund transfers organizational unit, which was included in that $6,418,894. And then item number 6, which is the general fund contingency, and the net change in the contingency is increasing by $10,041,821 for the change in the contingency. It relates to 4 items that's listed in the sub-bullet, showing up beginning fund balance of that $13,492,882. increasing transfer expenditure appropriation to the newly created Housing Opportunity Production Fund for $6,418,894. The carry forward of the Business Assistance Program Fund appropriation of $242,167, and reducing the Affordable Housing Development Support Organizational Unit appropriation by $4 million. And the net amount is that $10,041,821 for the general fund contingency. And then item number 7 is the supportive housing services under county administration. This is a 221 organizational unit 221-1510. This is a reducing all revenue and expenditures appropriation by $350,000, and this was the previously approved supplemental budget in this particular org unit. This amount is replaced with the next item under supportive housing services administration 221-6530 with a total appropriation of $1,140,000. This is a combination of that $350,000 moving over, and as well as the additional $790,000 that was approved that will be approved with the above item. And then item number 9 is the Housing Production Opportunity Fund, which is the Fund 245. This is the increasing revenue and expenditure appropriation by the total of $6,418,894. This amount includes the remainder of the 2019-20 amount, as well as the moved over fiscal year 2020-21 amount. Item number 10 is related with aging services. This is the increase in both revenue and expenditures appropriations due to grants received for COVID-19 pandemic response activities in the total amount of $1,367,268. And the last item is related with the COVID-19 response, Fund 155-1645. This is the increase in revenue and expenditure appropriation by a net of $22,723,705 for additional funding received or anticipated to be received in fiscal year 2020-21 from external sources, including the following 3 items: the state's COVID-19 business assistance grant of $5,777,452, the federal emergency rental assistance fund of $17,999,262, and unidentified but anticipated additional federal or state funding that will cover costs for the county's continued public health response costs of $16,854,909, and the continuity of operations costs of $2 million. There is also a second category in here, which is the decrease of the revenue and expenditure appropriation by $19,907,918 for the portion of the Coronavirus Relief Fund, CRF, expended in fiscal year 2019-20 instead of in the current fiscal year. So I wanted to also note that this particular supplemental budget does not include the recently passed American Rescue Plan dollars. We will be taking the June supplemental budget to true up the actual funding that the county will receive from the latest from that American Rescue Plan. And that concludes the listing of this supplemental budget. I will be happy to answer any of your questions, and I recommend to open a public hearing to consider adopting the supplemental budget.
Commissioner Rogers, did you have any questions?
No, I didn't mute myself. No, Jack,
Okay.
That was thorough. You complied with 294-450, I presume, and all of the appropriate categories, and you used 294-316. Take a look at that one when you get into that other act. So.
Absolutely. Will do.
Great. Commissioner Rogers, being an expert in all of the different GASB and other financial requirements. So thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise with the team, Commissioner Rogers. Are there any other questions before I open a public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open a public hearing. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
We do not have anyone signed up, Madam Chair.
Okay, seeing none, I'll close tonight's public hearing and ask if any commissioner would like to make the motion to approve the resolution in order to adopt the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. We have a motion from Vice Chair Tree, seconded by Commissioner Rogers. I'll check for comments. Are there any comments before I take a vote? Okay, seeing none, I would just like to pay a compliment to you, Mr. Leong, and everyone on the finance team, the legal team, and all the other staff who enable us to realize additional revenue, but also to make sure that we never spend money that we don't have, and that you account for all utilization of funds in a responsible and transparent manner. So I appreciate all of the care, discipline, and diligence in this matter.
Thank you, Chair Harrington.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raise your hand. Thank you, colleagues. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. That takes care of our 4 public hearings for this evening. Next, we'll move on to our second period of oral communications. Mr. Moss, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Madam Chair. We have Claire Roach. Claire, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead for up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, my name is Claire Roach, and I'm a citizen of Tualatin and a sophomore at Tualatin High School. And I live near Southwest 108th Avenue, which is about 3,000 feet from the existing road called the Basalt Creek Parkway. And I'm concerned about the impacts of the Basalt Creek Extension Bridge project that is taking place in our community. Just for reference, it's essentially a 5-lane bridge between Grams Ferry Road and Boone's Ferry, meant to be a traffic relief from I-5. There are numerous parts of the project that aren't ideal, and I would like to bring to light a few of the concerns from the standpoint of a youth resident in the area. First of all, the traffic. From my research about this project, I understand that there will be an additional stoplight on Boone's Ferry Road. This bridge will bring truck traffic to the area, and the stoplight will be an automatic light that allows trucks to have the least amount of stopping as possible. And this seems like a good idea, but looking at the daily life and congestion that occurs on Boone's Ferry, it's not ideal. During rush hour in the morning, people are commuting to work, truck drivers are starting their daily delivery routes, and a very large number of students and faculty are driving to the high schools, which are Tualatin High School and Horizon Christian High School, along Boone's Ferry. And there's also the new Amazon distribution center, which also bring more traffic multiple times a day while drivers sit out on the routes. Rush hour in the afternoon is no different, causing the 5-minute drive from Ibach to Tualatin High School to be a 20-minute drive. And as a student, often we wait in the parking lot for up to 45 minutes after school as a result of traffic congestion on Boone's Ferry. Being the main road in the residential area of Tualatin, there's no other option for drivers during rush hour. Constant stops along Boone's Ferry would cause traffic to pile up with more trucks to be in residential areas, which doesn't make sense in accordance with the existing congestion problems throughout Tualatin, specifically on Boone's Ferry. And then lastly, along with taking away from our rural areas, pollution is a main concern of mine. I advise you to go drive through Tualatin and along the existing road, Basalt Creek Parkway, if you haven't. And I'm an active participant in the Tuesdays for Trash movement and an environmental leader in the community. And this road in particular always troubles me. For one, there is an endless trash dumped on the ditches along the entire stretch of the road and even on 124th. What once was a new clean road quickly became a dump for any and all trash from individuals who are driving through our community. Not many residents even drive on Basalt Creek Parkway, and if they did, they would want to preserve our environment and keep our streets clean. This suggests that this particular pollution is from those commuting through Tualatin. By extending the bridge between Boone's Ferry and Grams Ferry, that road and surrounding neighborhood will soon be as polluted as Basalt Creek is because of the traffic going through that area. there's no one I've noticed who cleans up these roads, so the responsibility ends up being placed on people in Tualatin like myself who are dedicated to keeping a clean environment. Through Tuesdays for Trash, I end up cleaning bins very weekly, but it's a little dangerous for a 15-year-old student to clean up the side of a main road that has no sidewalk and constant traffic from semi-trucks dumping exhaust and trash onto the edges of the road. Additionally, I'm an athlete at the high school, and like most others, I enjoy the outdoors and running in our fantastic community. But running along the Salt Creek Parkway and 124th is not really a positive experience. The air is heavy with exhaust and pollution from trucks traveling through Tualatin. And being a fit person, it comes as a shock to struggle breathing while trying to enjoy a community run. This is not normal or healthy, and it suggests that the pathways along this proposed bridge will be cleaner, even safe enough to use, is not an accurate observation. Thank you for your amazing and inspiring work towards a more sustainable community, and thank you for your time and consideration about my concerns. Your work in Tualatin, the county, is very important. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to express this. I hope you've taken these points into consideration in making decisions moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Claire. I think it's really wonderful to have the opportunity of a younger member of our community come and speak to the full commission. Commissioners, are there any comments you would like to share with Claire? Particularly for you, Commissioner Rogers, as the city of Tualatin and this particular area is in your district. Claire is a future, well, she's a resident already, but she's has the opportunity of being a future voter.
She does, and obviously, hopefully a future politician. That'd be great too. Claire, nice job. I think you sent something to the coordinating committee as well. You've had a letter that went around, and you've done a good job. As you go through and you take a look at this particular project, I was actually in the mayor of Tualatin when we chatted about it about 6 years ago. My kids all went to Tualatin High, by the way, so I'm quite familiar. In the area that you live in, it wasn't even developed at that time. There was no particular road. And unfortunately, government doesn't have a lot of money to put a project in when we conceive it. So it's been years and years in the making. Metro brought in a vast amount of industrial property, as you know, between Tualatin and Wilsonville. That road that you're referring to was meant to service that particular large industrial area. So the quandary, this is all for your thinking, the quandary is we have spent millions and millions and millions along the way putting in a facility that was supposed to support an industrial area that now neighbors have moved up against, and rightly so. They're concerned about noise and pollution, and so do you abandon those millions and millions and millions of dollars and planning, or do you stay the course, soldier on, as they say? So that's the dilemma, and the light that you're talking about was intended to have a flyover of I-5 eventually. The city of Wilsonville has some high aspirations about developing on the other side of I-5. So there's some pretty grand plans. It wasn't meant to be a pedestrian street particularly. It wasn't meant to be a road with sidewalks. It was meant to service an industrial area. It's probably going to be one of the largest economic bases in the entire region. If you throw in Hillsborough and Tualatin there, and a little bit out in the Troutdale area. So there isn't an easy solution. It's kind of like you start on a project and you put in millions and millions in planning, and then all of a sudden it presents some major problems. But I hope you're continuing to be an activist, and I hope that maybe there's some mitigation that could be done to service your needs. But that's where the project is. Thanks again for appearing tonight.
Go ahead, Vice Chair Treese.
I would like to thank Claire for her testimony tonight, and I'd like to encourage her to go to our website and look at our advisory committees and our commissions and consider what her interest might be in the future. So thank you, Claire.
Commissioner Fye, did you have anything for Claire? No? Okay.
I want to say congratulations, Claire, and good job. You did a really good job of doing this testimony, and very succinct and very clear, and very climate change focused. I really appreciated hearing your testimony.
Thank you, commissioners, including you, Commissioner Rogers. I appreciate the overview that you've given around this larger community area and reminding us all of the history, bringing new land areas into the urban growth boundary and setting them up for success with development, whether it's for residential areas, commercial areas, or industrial areas, involves a long process of putting together community plans, zoning, designing transportation routes in anticipation of the future development. And because of our limited funds and limited funding schemes, it takes an awful long time to put the dollars together. As Commissioner Rogers mentioned, from over a decade plus ago in that area coming in to now having the portions of the transportation network being put into place as we have the resources to. And the reason that we've been very mindful about where the urban land area is expanded into is so that we are able to protect the incredibly valuable farm and forest land, which we are rich in having here in Washington County. None of this is easy, but we do try to do so thoughtfully and in balance. I really do appreciate hearing our younger community members express their desires for our community into their future decades, but particularly with regard to climate change, because the decisions that we're making today about policies and investments, they'll have to live with. And it certainly earlier today, I read an article about those methane holes in Russia and the Siberian area. And it really drove home to me how our younger people are going to live with the ever-changing effects of climate change that nature is presenting us with, much longer than the current members of the Board of Commissioners. So thank you again, Claire, for coming and speaking with us tonight. Mr. Moss, is there anyone else who would like to testify tonight?
We do not have anyone else signed up, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Seeing none, for board announcements, our next meetings are as follows. We are going to have a special work session on Monday, March 29th from 9 to 10, and then a short special board business meeting that very same morning from 10 to 10:30, and we'll be going over some transportation funding direction and decision making in order to provide our congressional delegation with information that will be useful in their work. Then we're in the month of April. We're not meeting next week at all, the week of March 23rd or 22nd. It is spring break week for our public school systems. So I wish everyone who is planning on a spring break week to please enjoy themselves and continue to do so safely. Then into the month of April, we'll have a set of board meetings on Tuesday, April 6th. The work session starts at 8:30, board meeting at 10. Work session will reconvene for a very full day, I'm afraid, that day. The following Tuesday, April 13th, we have another very full day of work sessions. But fear not, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Ms. Angie and Ms. Taniguchi Dennis have been working with their staffs to really try and free up a little bit of variability in our schedule. So we have a pair of meetings on April 20th, work session at 8:30, board meeting at 10, reconvening in work session after that. As you know, we have postponed our roundtable to April 22nd, starting at 9 o'clock. And then our last set of meetings for the month of April, we're talking about the end of April already. My goodness, where has the year gone? April 27th work session at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then an evening board meeting at 6:30 p.m. That's all I have for board announcements. Colleagues, do you have any announcements? Seeing none from commissioners.
No, none other than to simply thank
sorry,
Claire.
Commissioner Rogers, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say thank you to Claire again. It's always surprising to have someone at this hour of the night come and speak to us from some of our younger citizens, and very eloquent. I'm impressed. I wish my own kids had been able to do that when they were that age. So that was quite good. And keep on soldiering on that project. We all need your help, that's for sure.
Right, Chair Harrington, we have a update from Administrator Angie.
Yes, Ms. Angie.
So Chair Harrington, Board of Commissioners, I'm hopeful that we can end the meeting on good news with the fire update. At approximately 7:30, Portland fire apparatus sprayed dry chemical to cover and smother the remaining fire. TVFNR hazmat remains on site to address hotspots that they see. What the reason that dry chemical was used is that it minimizes environmental risk, and that was a focus of the response. What this also means is that the evacuation zone has been significantly reduced, which is good news for our community. I also want to share that from Sheriff Garrett, he had shared that the Sheriff's Office was very impressed with how fast and responsive community members were in evacuating. So that just made the response and the Sheriff's Office work much easier. This is important because of the ethanol. It was a big explosion risk. So I do want to also share appreciation on behalf of Sheriff Garrett for the community members and their quick call to action. And that concludes my update.
I'd also like to ensure that our board's compliments of the coordinated effort amongst all of our public agencies to address this very dangerous situation was very impressive. Any board comments on that? Any other questions or comments? Mm-hmm.
I just want to extend my thoughts and best wishes to the community of Cornelius, to the mayor, to the city manager, to all of you who are working hard, and also the community members. So thank you. And I'm so sorry.
It's been quite a year of events, hasn't it? Yeah. Well, I hope everyone can return home safely tonight and that they'll have a restful night's sleep, even though their bodies and their brains might still be racing from the quite unusual, extraordinary events of the day. So thank you very much to our senior management team for ensuring that we are well up to date on the goings on and that our staff feels well supported. So, are there any other commissioner comments for tonight? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I notice the unmute on all boxes. So, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Colleagues?
Second.
Commissioner Rogers, thank you. And Commissioner Fye has seconded. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye, or raise your hand. Wonderful. Thank you, colleagues. Anyone opposed? The motion carries unanimously 4-0. We are hereby adjourned. Thank you, folks. Take good care.
Thank you
Have a
and
good
good night,
spring break.
commissioners.
Bye-bye.